The trans brain is a beautiful, beautiful thing, but there's something about, especially in the early days, about how isolating it is, because you think that who else can feel this confused but me? And the answer is that we're all confused, baby, I promise you.
I'm Jasper Lior, and this is Gender Euphoria, the podcast where we break down what gender euphoria is and talk about the beautiful, wonderful, incredible parts of trans identity. I want to acknowledge that the trans experience is complex and diverse. This podcast is not a comprehensive representation of that experience. Each episode, I chat to a beautiful human about their beautiful gender. Today, I'm joined by Joey Pheonix. Joey is the Director of Brand Strategy and Innovation at Creative Collective. They're a professional Faerie and an aspiring entomologist. Hello, Joey.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
It is my absolute delight to be here on this floor with you.
Thank you for joining me on the floor.
Gender Euphoria.
I like to start by asking people how they identify and what their pronouns are.
I am non-binary, trans, fae, and my pronouns are they, them. I'm staring at the floor a lot. I am
Eye contact not necessary.
I have autism, so it's very hard for me to hold that and also not be distracted. So thank you for letting me roll with this.
All good. We love neurodiversity here.
Cool.
What does gender euphoria mean to you?
Gender euphoria is being delighted by your self-perception. For me, euphoria is something that I experience when I feel like I'm presenting in the way that is very indicative of myself and my inner self, and that inner self is displayed outwardly. It's usually like wearing way too many textures and patterns and fun socks. But yeah, it's like the inside becomes outside, and the outside is delightful.
The outside is delightful, I have to say.
When I came out, I experimented a lot with like dapper clothing and just like, it's always historic period clothing. And for me, I felt like I was trying to be a 1920s gentleman. And I quickly realized that it didn't quite hit the note that I wanted. Because I realized that I take many shapes, and any given day could be any number of presentations of myself. And today it happens to be cat gloves and knee-high socks and a bunch of other blankets and things. But I think like the euphoria comes by knowing there's a freedom in how you choose to present yourself. And the closer you get to manifesting that on the outside, the more, I don't know, joyful it is.
How are you like in tune with your inside to like translate that to the outside?
So I feel like I am a shape-shifting creature. And I think that I never know who I am when I wake up in the morning. I feel like I get up and meet myself every day. And then I take some time to be like, okay, who are you? What do you want to look like? And the closer I get to that internal sensation externally, the better I feel. And there are some days that no matter how hard I try, I cannot match the inside at all. But there are some days where I'm like, wow, like this ridiculous piece of clothing and this soundtrack I'm listening to and this way that I'm greeting the world is fundamentally me. And nobody scripted that, nobody decided that, nobody decided that but me. And every day I get to be more and more my authentic self. Like people try to pin me to a certain form, and that's just not possible. And the more they try to pin me, the more I feel free to experiment and be a wild thing.
What does gender euphoria feel like to you?
Possibility. Like it feels like all of the things sort of holding me back are irrelevant. And like I can just take them off and leave them behind me. And it just goes back to that whole authenticity piece, because I feel very much free to be whatever it is I am. I'm in a position now where I can be that, and other people can see me being that, and it allows them to also step into that sense of just absolute joy at being who they are, unlimited by, I don't know, society's rules about how to be a person, because nobody can decide that but yourself. Yeah.
When you put on an outfit and it really is in line with how you're feeling on the inside, is there any physical sensation that you get from that?
It's a little tingly, to be completely honest. When I wear it for myself, it's not quite as potent, but when I interact with people who are visually like delighted as well, like there's a strange connection I take a bit of pride in, honestly, of putting together an ensemble that makes people be like, wow, that's fun, or wow, that's actually Joey. And I love living in a community where there's a lot of play with clothing and with experimentation of presentation. It feels like it's providing a low stakes atmosphere at which to play around with gender expression.
You just made me realize that I'm sure there's a huge intersection between gender euphoria and play. And that is something I'm sure you have thoughts about.
Yeah, I think, people think that play stops when you become an adult, and it's actually one of the most important things that we can do as people in the community, because play is low stakes. And I feel like a lot of people, everything kind of feels like a lot of pressure to like behave a certain way, and everything feels just like high stakes in a way. It's just to be a person and get up in the morning and go do things, like it's way too much pressure. To be able to just be free, to try things, to do things, to express yourself however you wish, just frees up your body to be much more, to be flexible. Like freedom is flexible. And if we are not given the space to do that, to try things, to fail, to be wrong, to be, socially terribly dressed, if we aren't given that ability, we'll never know what we're capable of.
I think transness shows people that there's more than a binary, and play like teaches your brain to think in ways beyond the binary.
That's why I love fairy tales. It just expands our brains to think beyond what we know is possible. If we don't know what's possible, we don't know what's possible. And in play, in fairy tales, in all of this stuff, we are already primed to think about things in a way that we hadn't thought about it before. And our brains need this. They need to have doors open for it.
And I feel like the euphoria ties into that, because these doors are joyful, and we're coming from a place of joy, and we're expressing joy, and that is so important. And feels so good.
Yeah.
Feels so good.
Pretty damn good.
What is a moment of gender euphoria that stands out in your life?
Oh goodness, I got to be Peter Pan. And this is when I was just recently out as queer and non-binary. Had someone help me make a costume, and I did a little dance in front of lots of children and crowed at them and sang, and I felt like a boy. And I mean that with a capital I at the end of that word, a boy. And there's something about being seen and accepted, because traditionally Peter Pan is cast as a femme person. For me, it was like a very androgynous representation as a child when I saw Mary Margaret be Pan on TV, showing this femme character being a very male role. And so being able to do that when I was recently out and just have everyone like celebrate me and be so excited for me that I did this so well, and like nobody questioned that I was a boy. Nobody questioned that. I felt very lucky, and that clicked in my head. I'm like, okay, this wild pixie dream child is me. It was just me, and I didn't feel like I was acting. I feel like I was just me. So that was very pivotal that year. I think there was a moment beforehand, like the year before, and I still had like massively long hair, and I was very, I was not quite sure who I was, but I went to a Halloween party dressed as a newsie. I've been a Newsies fan since I was 3, and I used to pretend that I was Spot Conlon when I was a kid. And so I went to this party in suspenders and a flat cap and tucked my hair up under my hat. And I just was on fire with just joy. And I was like, wow, I did not realize putting on clothes that were not my traditional everyday femme wear would make me feel this alive. And it's not just Pan, it's not just a newsie, it's those are like facets of who I represent now. But those are the door. That's the door that I found that led me to this wild wonderland that I'm currently in.
What is something that is seeing your gender today?
The joke is that it feels like a Hieronymus Bosch painting, where everything is just chaotic and wild and full of fish-eating people. I think like the prism is probably the easiest thing, like in thinking of shapeshifting and thinking of multifaceted anything. That is the only thing that makes sense to my brain, is that every day is different, but it's all part of the same me.
Yeah.
And what is that? Like,
is that gender euphoria?
Of course, every day. I'm just a joyful kid. Like I the connections I have to my community exists because I'm euphoric. I want to be seen in public because I know who I am, and it's fucking great.
What do you love about being trans?
Everything. I love everything about it because it keeps people guessing perpetually. It's probably the biggest thing. I just love interacting with humans and watching their faces change. But being trans is constantly an opportunity to surprise people. And since I'm a bit of a trickster and a chaos creature, I think that's hilarious. I'm entertained by people's faces when they're confused by me. But also for my own sake, like I feel just more myself than I ever could have been. I always felt that I was lying when I said my dead name, or if I said my pronouns or like anything. I always felt like I was telling a story that someone else gave to me.
What would you say to someone who is trying to experience gender euphoria?
Try shit. Like, throw a bunch of stuff at the wall, see if it'll turn colors. I really encourage experimentation and expression. Like, it took me months to finally feel any close to connected to my internal self. And so if someone's not feeling connected, euphoric, there are a couple ways to like handle that, or to hold space for that yourself. It's like, number one, talk to your community, find other people who are experiencing euphoria, because the community of queer people and trans people is what got me through in the early days and still gets me through daily. Because like, if you think that you're alone and figuring stuff out, it's going to be a lot harder. But yeah, I really, really encourage you that if something's not clicking, keep trying. Try something else. I went a whole week once wearing 4 different outfits a day, just trying to figure out if any of them felt good. And like one did. And I went with that. And yeah, I guess like write it down. If you find something that works, write it down. Because otherwise you'll forget it.
That's good advice. Any other random thoughts you want to spew?
I'm curious about your answer to the last question personally. What would you say?
It's tough.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have experienced euphoria in kind of a while. I've been spending a lot of time in my inner world recently. And I guess that's what I would say. What I'm doing right now is just like really intentionally reconnecting to my inner child and like learning from them and like figuring out how they are me and how they are themselves. And I'm really into play right now. Just play. Just like draw something on a piece of paper and sing a dumb song about nothing and run around and go skip somewhere. I saw someone skipping. It's the best. It's the best to just see someone skipping out in public.
Yeah.
Full-grown adults.
I love that because like I think that's a really good key. Is like if you can't find gender euphoria, where else are you finding joy? Like where else feels good? Like are you having meals that you love? Are you taking great walks? Like are you having good conversations with friends? Like what are the things that are bringing you joy? Whenever I feel a stranger in my own body, I look for other ways to practice self-care. Because if you're not feeling euphoria, you cannot fight it and you cannot make yourself find it. But there are other things you can do to honor yourself and hold space for yourself. And then those will open the doors for the rest of it. And today I'm having a great day. Like I feel super lucky. The sun's out, it's freezing, but the sun's out. I have coconut coffee. I'm sitting on a great floor and this is a good day, but not every day is like this. And I think I'd be remiss to say that I was always this bubbly and delighted in my body. And so on days where I don't have it, I can acknowledge that and be like, you know what, I don't have it. But what can I do to like make myself feel better and like I deserve to be a person? Because like, you know what? I deserve to be a person.
You do.
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah.
I think just like not sweating it. Like if you just don't have the euphoria, don't put pressure on yourself to make it happen because it's not that easy.
It's not easy.
This podcast is like super positive in tone, but the goal is to be happy. The goal is to be full of peace and to have what you need, right? But like that's not reality all the time. And I think like if you're not okay, that's fine. If you're not euphoric, that's fine. But like you still matter. And your feelings, all of them matter. And what you're experiencing matters. And if you feel like you can't figure it out on your own, talk to somebody. Because I'm pretty sure other queers out there, other trans people out there are feeling the exact same way you are and will have space for you.
Having trans community changed my life after I came out in a way that I didn't ever expect. Go get some trans community.
I promise you. We're all very confused, but we've become accustomed. We learned how to deal with that and how to celebrate it. I celebrate my confusion, and it's great.
Is there anywhere you want people to find you on the internet?
Everywhere. I want to be your friend and talk to you about all of the things, so please find me. My Instagram is at Pheonix. It's Faephonix. I'm also lead storyteller and Director of Brand Strategy and Innovation, as we said earlier. It's a very fancy title that means that I tell a lot of great stories at Creative Collective, and that is at Creative Collective MA on Instagram. And then my Faerie troupe is Faerie Fellowship, and it's FAERIE.fellowship, and that's on Instagram as well.
Hell yeah. Anything else?
Be kind. Just be kind. Wherever you are, whoever you talk to, whatever you do, just be kind.
Thanks so much for chatting with me.
Thanks for letting me be part of the Euphoria.
This has been Gender Euphoria with Joey and Jasper. Thanks for listening. Gender Euphoria is a queer videography podcast. Produced by Ilana Kapra. Music by Jasper Lior. Find show notes and photos to go with each episode on Instagram at Gender Euphoria Pod. If you or someone you know needs to talk to somebody about gender, visit thetrevorproject.org. If you or somebody you know wants to talk to me about gender on this podcast, email info@queervideography.com. Love yourself, listen to your body, and gender boldly. Apple trees and honeybees, the ocean breeze, a really good sneeze. There's gender queer and gender fuck, non-binary and ladies who tuck. There's trans man, thank you ma'am, the girls, the gays, the theys, going out for a swim in a sea of manta rays. We're all eating to poop and pooping to eat in whatever bathroom I take a seat. And we're all just humans, homos looking for love. We're all just humans, except the cats and aliens.